I'm going to construct a scene with figures here. So straight away I'll come up to the File menu and I'll open the scene I prepared previously, the SF Room and Light PZ3 file here. So I'll just click Open, and that's the scene I'm going to use with the lighting already set up. I've just used props from the props folder in the standard Poser installation here. I've used Science Fiction Room D and Science Fiction Room C, and I've put some custom lights in just to light the scene up. I'll import some figures into the scene now. I've constructed some figures using the costume and props that come with Poser. So this time I'll come up to the File menu. I will import the figures. So I'll come down to Poser Document Prop here, and I'm going to import the Allison PZ3 file. And that'll take a while because there's quite a few props attached to the figure. And that's changed the camera view as well, but we'll fix that in a moment. And then I'll import the Ryan figure I prepared as well. So down to Poser Document Prop again, and I'll click on the SF Ryan figure there. And again, the same thing happens. It takes a short while to import all the items. And then if I come back into the auxiliary camera view here, there are the two figures. Now it's changed the background color here, so I'll go and correct that before I move the figures. I'll use the standard Windows color picker here to pick the black background again. And then I'll change to a top view. And you can see here that the figures are actually superimposed one over another. That's not what I want, so I'm going to separate the figures. Now I'll come up to the current figure menu here, select Allison. And coming over to the parameters palette, I'll then drag down until I can see the X translation dial. And I'll use that to move Allison over. Let's move her out of the way slightly. Now that's one way of moving a figure and translating it. So what I'll do now is actually zoom out a little from the scene. And you can see here that I've put two rooms together. Now I want to be able to move the figure into the next scene, but there's a ceiling in the way. So I'll just select the ceiling. I'll come over to the Properties palette and click on the Properties tab. And where it says visible here, I'll actually make the ceiling invisible so I can see clearly where I'm placing the figures. Now this time I'll use the translation tool here to actually select the body circle around Allison. You can see the red circles appeared there. And then I'll drag her through the airlock and into the scene next door, or into the room next door rather. And I'll do the same with the Ryan figure. Just make sure his body's selected in the actor menu here. And you can see the red circle appearing around him. I'll just make sure I'm grabbing that. And there you are, there's Ryan moving now into the scene here. Now that's not quite right. The figures are actually facing in a default position, according to the pose I set them. So I'll just come into the posing camera view here, and then zoom out slightly. Now I need to make them both point through the airlock. So I'll do that with Ryan first. Again, I'll come over to the parameters palette here, pull down to the rotation dials, and then I'll adjust his Y rotation. So I'll just turn the entire body and figure around, including all the clothing and props attached to it, until he appears to be facing the doorway. I'll also adjust his Y translation slightly because his heel is disappearing into the floor here. So I'll just move him up slightly. You can see that the scene appears to be moving relative to Ryan's body, because the posing camera is focused on Ryan at the moment. So I'll change it to Allison now. You can see the view is altered there, so I'll just rotate till I can see Allison properly. There she is. And I'll make sure her body's selected again on the current actor drop-down menu. And I'll rotate her by using the Y rotate dial here. And there she is facing the right way. Now I'll adjust her Y translation slightly as well. And she's wearing big boots, and at the moment her heel is disappearing through the floor. So there you are. Now I'll change her Z translation slightly as well to make her move a little bit more closely towards the airlock. And again I'll do that with Brian. I'm using the dials here for finer control. So I'll adjust his X translation slightly to move him just to the side of Allison. And then I'll adjust his Z translation to move him closer toward the door and therefore the camera. So they're now virtually just about side by side. And if I just move the camera rotation here, you can see that they're both appearing to be heading through the door. So that's exactly the effect I want. So I'll change into the auxiliary camera. You can see the figures just starting to appear by the door.